BTS News today. The night at the military base was noticeably quieter than usual. The spring wind blows softly, carrying the scent of freshly rain-drenched soil. Behind the dimly lit barracks, two figures with shadows that are very familiar to millions of people around the world walk slowly. Make sure no one's looking. They tread carefully, as if they were treading a path full of pebbles of memories and words that have never been spoken. That night, Jimin and Jungkook met secretly, and no one expected that the moment would shake the emotions of millions of soldiers around the world. This meeting is no ordinary meeting. This is the meeting point between longing, hidden wounds, and honesty that held up for too long. They two best friends who grew up together in the spotlight of the world, finally in a space where there are no cameras, no spotlight, and no demands from the outside world. Just the two of them, with a fragile heart but full of courage to face reality. Jimin came first. He stood in the corner of the unused dugout. The place was once used to store supplies, now empty, silent, and perfect for a meeting that wants to be hidden from anyone. He was wearing a dark hoodie, hiding his face with a hat. His eyes stared at the door with an irregular breath, as if trying to calm the storm in his chest. A few minutes later, very familiar footsteps were heard. Jungkook appears in the doorway, slightly panting, but with eyes that can't be hidden, full of anxiety and hope. They stood a few seconds in silence. No greeting, no smile as usual, just gazes trying to read each other's thoughts. Jungkook approached slowly, then stopped right in front of Jimin, still in silence. Until finally Jimin's voice broke the first time, softly but clearly piercing. "Why didn't you talk at that time?" he asked, his voice trembling, but still firm. Jungkook lowered his head, took a deep breath, and answered quietly, "I'm scared, Hyung. I'm afraid you won't understand. Or worse, you will leave." Jimin's eyes lit up for a moment. He's been holding back a lot of questions for a long time. About the suddenly created distance. About unrequited messages. A smile that feels foreign. They both know that whatever gets between them isn't as simple as a busy schedule or a small misunderstanding. It's something that has grown between time and pressure, and they've never really had time to talk about it. "I'm always here," Jungkook, Jimin said, trying to hold back tears. "But you chose silence." "I'm waiting for the right time," Jungkook replied. "But that time never came, until I realized. I'm gonna lose it." Jungkook's voice broke at the end of that sentence. He finally looked straight into Jimin's eyes, as if asking for forgiveness, the courage to say what has long been buried. He stepped closer, and for the first time that night, he touched Jimin's shoulder, a small movement that made the feeling of piling up in Jimin's chest explode. "I can't keep pretending that everything is okay," he continued. "I wanted to talk that night, at the station, but you were gone before I came." Jimin smiled bitterly. "Because I knew you wouldn't come. Because you've been away so much, Jungkook." Those words are heartbreaking. Jungkook fell silent, biting his lower lip. I knew Jim was right. Not once or twice did he withdraw, not because he didn't care, but because he himself does not understand with all the emotions that grow in him, a mixture of affection, protection, worries, and fear of loss. He loves Jimin in his own way, but he is also caught up in the fear that the feeling will not be accepted in the same way. "I love you, Hyung," Jungkook said suddenly, his voice trembling, almost like a whisper. "I don't know since when, but I know this feeling is not just friendship." I tried to deny it, but the further I moved away, the more it hurt. Jimin froze. The world seemed to stop turning. He looked at Jungkook, looking for lies in his eyes, but nothing. There is only raw and sincere honesty. Jimin closed his eyes for a moment, letting the sentence settle in his mind. It's been a long time since Jungkook said that, but when it really happened, the feelings were mixed. Happy, sad, relieved, and at the same time scared. "Why only now?" Jimin asked in a barely audible voice. "Because I'm stupid," Jungkook replied. "And because I was so afraid of losing you that I ended up hurting you." Jimin laughed a little, then wiped away his own tears. "You're really stupid." But behind that little laugh, there was a huge emotion that could not be denied. He stepped forward and hugged Jungkook, embraced him with all the feeling that he had buried deep. The hug is not just a hug of forgiveness, but also a hug of union, an acceptance that they can finally open up to each other without hiding who they really are. Outside, the wind stopped for a moment, as if nature also respects the meeting of two hearts that have been separated by silence and doubt. That night they talked more. About their past, about their fears, and about their dreams for the future. Jungkook admitted that he never felt empty without Jimin. And Jimin admitted that he often cried in silence because he felt that he lost Jungkook, who used to always be by his side. No sweet promises or metaphorical words. Only honesty is raw, like a wound that is finally cleaned after too long of letting go. They don't need the world to approve or celebrate their feelings. Enough of each other. In the midst of all the uncertainty, they live as public figures and soldiers of the state. They knew that night was the beginning of something new. Something more honest. A few days after the meeting, many fans are beginning to notice small changes in their interactions. Although still in a military world full of limitations, the aura between Jimin and Jungkook was different. Their gazes, their smiles, and the way they greeted each other indicated that something had happened. But they chose to remain silent in public. No explanation needed, no confirmation needed. Because what happened that night was enough for them to survive. Reports from insiders say that since the meeting, Jungkook has looked calmer. Jimin also looked more cheerful than usual. Although both are still serving their respective duties, there was a kind of new energy enveloping them. Some of the staff at the base even said that the atmosphere between them was like two people who had finally found their home again. Armies around the world began to speculate. The hashtag Jungkook reunion has been trending for several days in a row. Many were moved to tears when news of the secret meeting leaked through a report of a former logistics staffer who accidentally saw them walk out of a small room at night with faces full of emotion. But more than rumors and speculation, this story touched the hearts of many. Because in the end, it's not about who loves whom. This is a story about the courage to open the heart, about sincerity, and about the power of confession. Jimin and Jungkook show the world that behind all the glitter of fame, they remain mere mortals, with fear, love, and a desire to be accepted. Jungkook's confession that night didn't just change their relationship, it also changes the way they see the world. The world that has been forcing them to be perfect. A world that is always demanding without making room for hurt and fatigue. By embracing each other in honesty, they freed themselves from those shackles. And for ARMY, this story is a reminder that love, in any form, is sacred, and that it never hurts to be honest about feelings, even if it means having to face life's biggest fears. That night, Jimin and Jungkook not only rediscovered each other, they also discovered their true selves. The night was never really calm. Although the spring breeze gently swept the barracks yard, Jimin and Jungkook know that what they're doing isn't just a casual conversation. This is a long overdue meeting, and the hearts of both called to be healed. They sat face to face in a dark little room. The dim light from the chandelier creates a faint shadow on the walls. Jungkook opens voice for the first time, but not with complicated words, but rather with a deep look that asked Jimin to listen wholeheartedly. Jimin, who had been harboring doubts and wounds secretly, just replied with a small nod. It took him a long time to be able to sit and stare at Jungkook like this again, without anger, without tears, only curiosity and courage to listen to the truth. "I'm sorry," Jungkook said finally, slowly, as if the voice could break at any moment. "For that night. For all the night after. I'm too scared to admit that I lost my way after you left." Jimin was silent. Her heart trembled at the honesty, because all this time she thought she was the only one who was hurt. "You're ignoring me, Jungkook. You make me feel like I'm not important. Even when I needed you, you didn't come."